Hello, aloha, and welcome to Thoth with me, Mark. I gave what you might call a celestial slip yesterday. I called it divine Thoth when I started that channel. Maybe that's just some kind of celestial slip that was just like, that's what was being channeled yesterday. But just a strange thing I'd pointed out for anyone who watched the video yesterday. But today, back to Thoth with some more messages for you out in the British sunshine, in the grass, and yeah, ready to bring you some messages. Nothing in particular coming through at this moment of time, but as always there will be messages that come through. Hope you're all doing well today. I'm going to do a 4 realms spread, and I'm going to put an extra card in the center from one of the 4 decks. And I'm going to do it in a little bit of reverse order to what I've done previously. So I'm going to start with the Divine Masters and put one of the cards for the physical, the earthly realm. Whereas that deck I normally would put in the higher spiritual realm. And taking the Urban Crows, which I would normally put in the physical realm, and taking a card for the more spiritual realm. The Ancestors, where I would normally... This camera, hello. Oh dear. So the Ancestors, where I normally put in the emotional realm, I'll put in the mental realm. Root of Earth, Inspired Action, wanted to come out as the first card to show up today. I hadn't looked at the bottom of the other 2 decks. I wasn't drawn to them. So that would be the Page of Pentacles, and that would talk to starting projects, starting manifestation, starting material things, and that is interesting that would show at the start of this reading, even though the card didn't come out. Yeah, my camera wants to wobble all over the place, so I don't know if you're all over the place or that's just the way my camera wants to go today, but we'll work with it as we go along because life is full of tumults. And then I'll put a Time Traveler's Oracle, which I normally put in the mental realm, to put into the emotional realm. The bottom of the deck is Truth. Throat chakra, speaking your truth. So it could be a start of manifesting things in your life, and the key to that is speaking your truth. So let's start. We'll take one more card actually. I said I'd take an extra card as a significator. And I'm going to take the card that's showing at the top of the Time Traveler's Oracle because that's standing out to me. So, in this mystery read where the camera wants to play around, we'll see what each realm has got. So in the physical realm, and that's quite incredible. I think that's either 3 days in a row or 3 days out of the last 4 or 5. Metatron and Sandalphon are assisting you. Sacred connection, synchronicity, divine connection, understanding lessons. So this pair have come out consistently in the last few days. This could talk to a wider sense of divine connection between you and another, and the whole twin flame journey or eternal soulmate journey, as I like to call it. And then this talks to all sorts of connection. It talks to a connection of light workers, those tapped into more angelic realms and knowing as such. Interesting, the blue eyes and the brown eyes. Gives me a sense of David Bowie, and I'm not sure that exact relevance to this, but David Bowie talks about artists and being artistic, and obviously he had songs that would relate to you if you're a starseed. Songs start to have different resonances as when you spiritually awake, and Starman is obviously talks about being a starseed. You know, if Bowie was conscious when channeling it may be unlikely, but it can have different resonances from us depending on where we are of our soul and where we think we are from. And we're from everywhere really as well at the same time. But these two have been, I'm not sure why that message came out, it just did, but these two have been coming up consistently, and it's come up in the physical realm as well, so that guiding it is talking of like a grounding of this sacred connection. And it's not to take it as everyone's going to come into divine union at once, or every divine union is going to strengthen. That kind of is maybe divine unions are going to strengthen, but the connection we all have with each other and across this earth, especially if you are in a light worker embodiment, a sense of feeling and identifying and embodying a light worker, embodying in the physical realm, then there are shifts and you are being guided by Metatron and Sandalphon phone. You may want to look them up in terms of what particular relevance they have for you as well. So in the spiritual realm with the crows is again a card that's popped up I think the last 3 days, maybe 4 out of the last 5 days in these readings. Spirit will give you consistent themes, whereas there is a consistent theme to be had. Cachet talking, so this almost gives a sense of you have been and now you are as well, in a spiritual sense as much as a physical sense. It's like a reversing of roles, like, you know, individually this card, this crow is caching, it's putting things away, it's storing things, it's taking things out. It's kind of like a computer term sometimes, cache, like to put something aside and to consolidate. So in this sense, it gives, maybe you're consolidating part of your spiritual self, your astral self, for more physical union with yourself, physical union with connections. There's almost like a switch that you're finding more connection and grounding more connection on the earth, and then caching and putting away all the kind of physical things you were doing, the isolation you were doing, and giving that to spirit and leaving that to your higher self. Spiritual connection is not always about meditation and being divinely connected. It is in the things that we do on this earth. And there are plenty of people who don't necessarily identify as spiritually connected, who are in various ways spiritually connected. All things flow, you know, as above, so below. So here it's saying that you can switch the roles, and you know, when you first awaken, you might be really isolated and connected to spirit, but then the idea is not for you to be so isolated and connected to spirit. And the irony is, you may not be as connected to spirit in your mind or in your isolation, but the things that you are doing and manifesting on this earth are more manifestal. They are more manifest, but they are more connected to spirit than the things when you were doing in your isolation. But you were learning when you were in isolation to get that divine knowledge, but you're utilizing that divine knowledge as you move further on in life. Generally, I mean, it goes in an ebb and a flow, but this gives the suggestion of you're caching away that isolation or that individualized connection with spirit to ground more sacred connections in the physical realm. So in the emotional space, we've got the Time Traveler's Oracle, power, number 32. It means you're feeling more powerful. Dinosaurs in the Jurassic period, again, this can talk about your connection with higher beings, or like your connection to being an old soul, because your soul could have been around for many lifetimes. Maybe not the Jurassic period, but it gives that sense of being age old, what dinosaurs kind of represent. And it shows how power can shift on the earth. At the time that dinosaurs were powerful and ruling, human beings were only burgeoning and coming through, and were generally the one top of the food chain as they are now. So the food chain on earth. So it's saying that powers can change, and those who are in power now are the dinosaurs of tomorrow, right? The people that were burgeoning through, and it can be these sacred connected light workers, are coming through as the new power. I've got a citrine, raw citrine necklace on today, and citrine obviously talks about power itself. Charge is just like its own internal power. It talks of the sun and that solar plexus energy. And we're moving towards that different sense of power. We had like highly sensitive as the Page of Cups yesterday. It's that sensitivity is becoming more of a power, and power is gearing more towards that as we go along. It's just embodying it and going with the flow of time as such. So in your mental realm, the ancestors, the ancestral force completion number 21, which is the world, which is Saturn. There's an element of both heaviness and lightness in this card. You can see the darkness in there, but the lightness that surrounds it in this crown. It's talking about coming to the end of cycles, coming to a completion of this way of being, the cycle, or this period as such, this era in your life, and this era in the world. Pluto moves into Aquarius. The last time Pluto was in Aquarius, there was the American and French Revolution. So the astrological shifts can indicate changes that are relevant to each time, to each period, to each era. And this says there's one that's coming to an end, and you're aware of it. You're mentally aware of it. You can see it around you. You can feel it within your own life and the world around you as the world card. There's a sense of completion, and there are ancestral forces backing you. And you know, if you are following these kind of cycles, at some point you can be grounded with them, which is the earth. And the earth is the dance of infinity with, you know, the Saturnian concepts of time. It is eternity in the hour. It's the kind of mix of the flow of everything. It's matter and spirit together and in an eternal flow. Talking of that, you may want to read Auguries of Innocence by William Blake, and that would talk to you about how everything is eternal, how you'll see heaven in a wild flower. And a video a few days ago talked about how beautiful and life-affirming flowers are in that poem by Blake. It's one of the most standout poems that talks about from the infinite to the micro, to the smallest grain of sand, to all the stars in the heavens, and that from micro to macro all is the same, all is universal. And that's been around for eons. You know, Blake was writing in the 1700s, so it's been here for ages. And even though we don't know the poets of Egypt and such, as there wasn't such a writing, it was hieroglyphics, there's an internal loop, there is a complete cycle that never really ends in that history. It's things that are already known, it just doesn't come out in the same form. And so your life is things that we already know but just come out in a different form, in a different era, in a different period, the same as human history, the same as universal history. And interesting, that card in other decks in the Thoth is called the universe, and you can see these cycles in different ways. And we're going through cycles. This is one thing I was thinking about today, is ever expanding cycles, because we go through cycles in our life, and if you believe it's karma, you go through ever decreasing cycles at time, where you go through cycles where you're ready to break, or you're getting lessons as such, you know, because such karma or clearing negative karma to try and break through. And then when you break through, you would start to go into ever increasing or ever expanding cycles in your life. And if you feel that, because I've been feeling that today, that shift is coming as I turn 36 almost, that the cycles feel like they're starting to expand from where they were at least the last 18 years. And again, those cycles can come in 1 year periods, 2 year periods. You know, you go through, I have a great month, or I had a great day, and then the next day is a different cycle. Cycles are always continuous and spiraling and always moving, not in the kind of linear sense that we always project our lives to be. You know, growth is eternal, but it comes in different forms, and so is contraction. So the card showing at the center is 2, activation, and the number 2 talking to partnerships, talking to harmony, talking to universal balance, talking about connection or sacred connection. Humans discovering fire in Africa, which is interesting because today I mentioned, and this card has come up a few times, but I haven't mentioned humans in these eras. But this is talking about humans discovering fire in Africa. This is a new cycle. This is a new cycle of the earth, where human beings gaining fire starts to propel humans to the top of the food chain. In the Greek mythology, Prometheus gives the human beings fire, and the gods fear them having the element of fire. They have the other elements, but the gods fear them having the element of fire because that gives them almost godlike power. It at least brings them to the top of that food chain on earth. You can see lightning in here as well, which is like a wrath of the gods almost. But and again, language, communication, like hieroglyphics here, but you know, cave paintings even before that. These things have always come in cycles, and so do activations. And so we are being activated now into a new period. Again, I mentioned in the reading earlier, Pluto moving into Aquarius, and the last time that happened, another form of cycle. As it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end, but it always moving infinitely in the same way. And there's a 3 of Pentacles element to here as well, like starting a project. There's 3 here at the cave. You can see this a little bit like the 3 of Pentacles from the Rider-Waite. And so it's talking about a sense of community and working together as we ground this, as we form these connections. I'm going to see any extra ancestral guidance 2 cards. Card at the bottom of the deck is the Conjure Woman, the Magician. Manifestation would talk to you grounding and manifesting these things and creating these things and activating a new cycle. You know, the Magician is also number 1. It's like the start. It's just after the fall, but it's more that you could say it's more like the start in something, in starting something, because the fall is like he's kind of infinite in a way, and the 0 is like an eternal loop. But here you're starting something. You want to be starting something, and you are starting something new. Cycles are starting anew with persistent patience. Hello again. So the camera just stopped there, and I pulled a load of cards. So maybe the second half of that message wants to come out a bit differently, but the point that I was at there was you're doing it with persistent patience. These changes in cycles of persistent patience. There's all this flow of, you know, the inner and the outer, fire and water, or ice and fire, and you know, fire melts the ice and the ice encapsulates the fire, and it all goes through a flow, and temperance is very much that flow. So you're bringing with it, and it gives a sense of angelic embodiment as well. When we talk about temperance, it's like an angel, and it's giving a sense of higher alchemy as well. Alchemy is involved with temperance, and so you're moving with this balance as you're activated and as you are starting new things. And with that also came the goddess circle, wheel of change, the same as wheel of fortune. You know, I called it wheel of change there, and it suggests there are changes, and it does suggest fortuitous and positive changes. If you look at the way the cards have come out, and if you look at the sense of what the feeling is here, and these kind of ever expanding cycles, then you know this is where the change is going. It's also number 10, which is a sign of complete cycles of change. Of you go from 10 and then you move on back to 1 into a new cycle again. Both of these cards with themes of Egypt, so there's pyramid and the Sphinx, and this can talk to some of your ancestral history if you're tuned into this reading. Goddess figures within this, so divine feminine kind of rising and support in here, as much as, you know, the kind of fixed signs are supporting in this world card. You know, even like the clouds are kind of very celestial and spiritual kind of support that you're getting here. And there's also versions of the fixed signs in here, just kind of different versions, give a sense of a different cycle. And the portal, a sense of a portal opening up for you. And the eye of a portal is a doorway for you to walk through as you move through this activation and these changes. You know, it does seem highly fortuitous. We're in the year of the snake as well, and there's the pink and blue snake, and I could, you know, pink and blue gives a sense of male and female. Snakes are obviously to do with shedding, healing, transformation, and, you know, shedding and transforming together. There's also a sense of luck and abundance coming your way, you know, and with these cards, the Wheel of Fortune and with Temperance and Peacemaker here, you know, they relate to Jupiter, both of them, and they relate to abundance. And so with 14, and Temperance relates to Sagittarius, and that relates to abundance and movement and travel and philosophy, but it's, you know, ruled by Jupiter as well, and that is what also is related in the card of the Wheel of Fortune, is Jupiter and its expansion. And I talked about those ever expanding cycles. It's really giving a sense of this portal, this doorway opening, and this expansion happening, and you moving with balance and joy, especially in this card, as you move through that in the world, as you remember your kind of ancestral, your alien, your angelic wings that you have. You know, with all these changes, you begin to soar and you begin to expand in these new cycles. So after that, you know, in line with kind of temperance and this feeling of being in balance and a sense of stability as well, was number 4, balance, from the crows. And it gives a sense of spiritual balance as well, of, you know, spirit over matter, matter over spirit, as above so below. You know, it's giving this sense of you're moving with this balance, you're integrated, and You moved on from this kind of caching element of stashing things in the ground or stashing things in your astral body, in a sense, because of this coming in the spiritual realm. In the spiritual area here as well, you're in balance. You're centered, and this is what's giving the sense of you're centered, and you can move either which way. In alignment, really. This is kind of like a glowing kind of moon, and it gives the balance of that moon and sun, again relating to force of temperance, but a sun-like kind of moon there, and it shows you can follow the guidance that goes with the season. So also with the Divine Masters came Sanat Kumara, an open channel, and that talks about you embodying this, you embodying that golden light, that Venusian loving fiery kind of light that's there, and you being this divine channel on earth. So put it here in the physical realm with Metatron and Sandalphon and Sacred Connection, you're very much glowing and sure of yourself and embodying this golden light. That there is a place on earth, I'm not sure where it is specifically, you can look it up, but there's links to Sanat Kumara. There are temples that speak of Sanat Kumara. I think they are Buddhist Shaolin temples. There is places on earth that look for and seek these divine beings, which isn't such common knowledge. And then also with power came strength, and there is strength in your power, in your ancient power, and there's strength in these changes and these shifts of power. It's quite a rebellious theme, and Pluto moved into Aquarius, and one of the most rebellious of the 12 houses is the 11th, which is related to Aquarius. And so there's a sense of this rebellion. A white horse gives a sense of spirituality and purity as well. And there's an angel here, again, reminds me of sort of temperance. There's divine guidance, and divine guidance gives you strength. It gives you strength in your heart. There's a lot talks to the heart, and there's passion, and feeling that passion in your body, feeling that spiritual guidance, feeling that spiritual power in your being, and then communicating that. And then this talks about speaking with an open heart, being in the emotional realm, getting that higher communication with the purple colouring here, and speaking with love and joy and divinity, because it's the oracle at Delphi here. So this is again, it gives a sense of divine feminine rising, because you look at the Wheel of Fortune here, it's called the Goddess Circle, and there's the female oracles here. The Temperance is female here. It's Joan of Arc here. It's a feminine rising sense, and to bring balance, not to bring disharmony, or just to go from toxic patriarchal masculinity to toxic matriarchal femininity. It's talking about divine power and balance, and the women are more the portal, the feminine is more the portal, as portal in here, in this world. And so as one cycle ends, it's a change in how we view that. And that doesn't just mean women, that means in men, the femininity in men, because if everything goes back to source is a divine mixture of masculinity and femininity. And so within men, the closer you are to source consciousness, you want a balance of both your feminine and masculine aspects, because it brings you back to wholeness. But the way it works in the world, and the way current power structures are, is you're disconnected from it. Your society wants you to disconnect from it, and it wants the communication to be at a lower vibrational level. But you, through your divine power and your divine strength and your heart, you want to communicate what this is in a loving feminine way, but also with a kind of masculine strength to it, balance, with temperance. It's peacemaker as well in this card in particular. So you're doing it with peace and love and light, but assertive strength. And at the bottom of the deck was creativity as well. So you're doing it with creativity. The number 9 is just before the completion of cycles, and it's kind of like talks about individual completion almost. And this is you spreading that creativity, and that is part of your strength and part of your divine communication with the world. when we talk about a Renaissance, because this card is Venice, the Renaissance in Italy, the Renaissance period, the Renaissance is a change of things. And again, speaking to this kind of rebellion senses, you're creating change just by being who you are and standing in your strength and communicating your divine being. It's also number 7, this communication card, which again is victory, is overcoming the obstacles of bringing heaven into earth. As you move down the tree, number 7 is moving down and bringing that sense of divinity into earth. And also at the bottom of the deck for the crows was anticipation. So a table is being set. This is all happening. These cycles are happening, and the changes are coming to ground, and that the tables are being set. And things are happening. It's also for free here. So again, community and change and creativity, and again that talks to a lot of Aquarian concepts as well. So there's rebellious change. There's manifestation. Once again, this card came up, and it's a feminine magician. It's a feminine conjure woman. And it gives a sense of that, embodying that divine and feminine power and connection within us on the earth to be these divine channels. And Sanat Kumara is very Venusian, but this is again a male figure of that Venusian energy, which often again is associated with the female, is the Empress. So everything comes into full fruition. It comes into a cycle. And that's what's ahead of you. These changing cycles for your better, for the earth's better. Whatever the tumult, it's bringing about a balanced change. And so I wish you the best of luck on this path, but I'm not sure you necessarily need it. So that's me moving forward to bring more balance. Just there is that you can bring these changes in, and you can move with others and move with community to make real, meaningful, radical change. Not just radical change for the sake of it, meaningful change to embody that kind of divine strength. So thank you for doing that. We all appreciate it, and just know how strong you are. I love you, I believe in you, and I see how strong you are and how strong you are becoming, and so will the rest of this world as the cycles change. Namaste.